Vasquez.
Well, hey, everybody. How are you all doing? I hope that you're happy, healthy, and safe wherever you are right now. We are driving it home here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 in Seattle. Hello to all of our friends who are tuning in digitally, maybe on Facebook or YouTube or Monaco Brewing Company Substack. We invite you to please, and then I beg. That's how I do it. We invite you to subscribe and share with your family and friends so they can join the conversation here as well. And don't forget, you can find all of our podcasts at heartlandsignal.com. That's at heartlandsignal.com. Subscribe to our newsletter, find our Facebook page, and share these conversations, because I think a lot of people are looking for the space, really. I know that our numbers have been growing, and I'm so grateful to all of you who've reached out. I do want to mention, and I feel like I keep forgetting to invite you to email me. If you're not able to call or text when we're live, please feel free to reach out. You can email me, Vasquez at heartlandsignal.com. Again, that's P. Vasquez at heartlandsignal.com. And I also have my own Facebook page where we continue some of these conversations, and I cover some stories that maybe I don't get a chance to get to here because we always have such great guests. And of course, talking to you, our listeners who call in and text. Our number is 773-763-9278. That's 773-763-9278. Coming up on the show today, we're going to talk to Jon Marcus, a higher education journalist at the Hechinger Report and co-host of the NPR podcast College Uncovered. He's also written for the Washington Post, New York Times, and we'll talk to him about the international students who have been negatively impacted by immigration policies. We're also going to talk to our friend who's already in our green room, and I didn't get a chance to offer him some water, and I'm very, very sorry about that. But we're going to talk to Dan Ashurst, who is the executive director for FairVote Illinois. I was actually talking today to Daniel Squadron, who's the author of The Fourth Branch, about FairVote. He's also president and co-founder of Heartland. He's a parent of Future Now, which is the parent company for Heartland Signal, by the way. You can find Fourth Branch at your local bookstores or online, and apparently now at airports, we were told. But we were talking a little bit about ranked choice voting, and I know a lot of you have questions, and some of you have concerns about that. So we'll talk about a lot of issues regarding ranked choice voting. And I did not realize that Alaska has a primary today, and they do have ranked choice voting. So we'll have conversations about that later today. We're also going to talk to our friends from the Center for Better Aging. Estrelitta Harmon is going to join us, as well as Jen Schroeder, who's a workplace advocate for professionals over 45. I have questions. At any rate, what's on your mind today? 773-763-9278. We invite you to call or text because I do want to find out what's in the news that's catching your attention. And I want to thank our sponsors, too, by the way. Pride Coffee Roasters, Source.solar. That's pridecoffeeroasters.com, Source.solar, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We want to thank our friends from the Chicago Federation of Labor, as well as Monaco Brewing Company. And we don't want to forget our friends from Social Change. We have a lot going on. This Natalie Harp story has really taken off lately. I think it's gotten even louder after Caroline Leavitt announced that she would be stepping down. And I know a lot of folks are speculating as to whether or not that's because not long after she had her child, she was amongst the members of the administration and on the plane with the journalists who were essentially used as bait as Trump scurried away in a catering cart, apparently. So I'd heard Natalie Harp being discussed in the background, maybe on Stephanie Miller's show. Hal Sparks might have talked about her. I see it online. When you scroll, you might see stories about Natalie Harp. And a lot of folks, and look, over the weekend, Senator Jon Ossoff of Georgia stood at a rally in Atlanta and took a shot at the president regarding Natalie Harp. And he said Trump doesn't want to do the job. He said Trump wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on the flying palace the emir of Qatar gave him. And so if you're not familiar with who Natalie Harp is, she's 35 years old, executive assistant to the president, former host at One America News. She has been at his side constantly at the White House, at golf clubs, on the plane. Again, out of Turkey, she was in the. I don't know if she was in the dining cart or in. I don't want to know. Anyway. They apparently right now there's a lot of energy in the White House. That's chaos. I'm saying there's a lot of chaos going on because they're calling Ossoff names. I'm not going to share with you some of the names that are allegedly being used regarding him. Trump compared him to Pee Wee Herman. Ossoff then went on with Jen Psaki yesterday, and I guess he's trying to talk about the senior aides, not necessarily Natalie. Who knows what the way they're trying to all have this argument. But the thing is, the real story is that one person, unelected, unconfirmed, is now a big part of deciding what the president of the United States reads. She curates his articles. She curates the social media. Reporting says she has access to his Truth Social account. And Andy, our executive producer, was telling me they call her the human printer because she carries around, apparently during the 2024 campaign in particular, she carried around an actual printer so he could see things on paper. I don't know. That's a very strange job to have, and yet it is one of the most consequential jobs in that building that nobody voted for. And everyone has. We know that every president has a filter. There's a million things going on. Look, Nixon had Haldeman. Is that how you say his name? And but usually, the filter usually has, maybe a process of approval, maybe through the Senate, or at least a resume in government. So what does it mean when the information diet of the most powerful person in the world runs through the executive assistant who used to have a TV job? I'm just saying, at One American News. I don't know. What's on your mind, folks? 773-763-9278. And this is going to be, I think, one of those topics that is going to impact the way the president responds to things. And I wonder, I haven't seen any press conferences yet about how much the journalists are asking these questions. And I know we struggle with our media right now because folks have questions in regards to the news that we share, maybe at the top of the hour. There, CNN, a lot of news outlets, you'll read headlines, you're like, is this reporting or is this being a stenographer for repeating what the president says without the counter of this isn't what's happening? That's not true. At any rate, 773-763-9278 is the number to call and join our conversation today. I'm feeling a certain way about the end of summer. Like, part of me is relieved that the weather is starting to cool off. I know that we're going to have a lot of erratic weather. We always do in Chicago. And just because it's cloudy and overcast and starting to cool off a little bit doesn't mean we can't get back up to 100 degrees again. But I'm the kind of person that likes when the fall really settles in here in Chicago. Let me get is this Jim on line one? Let's get to Jim on. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind, my friend?
Hi, Patty. I'm just pondering who will save Western civilization: the 6 Supreme Court judges, the Republican Supreme Court judges, or the Republican Party, or Trump and MAGA. Will they save Western civilization? And this is a recurring theme with them. But my point is, Patty, when were we civilized? That's what I'd like to know. Western civilization, when were we civilized? We had 300 years of transatlantic slave trade. We had no problem with that. We had indentured servitude for hundreds and hundreds of years. My point is, do they really think that they can You'll hear that from Republicans, even Republican literature that I read now. It's more pronounced that we have to save Western civilization. We have to save it. We only have a brief moment on this earth. Are these people really crazy enough to think that 200 or 300 years from now that they've saved Western civilization? First of all, are we civilized? That's the real question. I'd argue that we aren't.
Well, we have the potential to be. I mean, we
don't have health care,
right?
And now we got ICE, the secret police, running through the streets, imprisoning our fellow human beings. Is that civilized? I beg not. So anyway, what do you? Let's. I mean, but it's ridiculous to even talk about it. But what about this election coming up? I mean, everybody's afraid that the Republicans are going to cheat to win. And the only reason you would cheat as a politician to win is because you want to make some money at it, Patty. I mean, there's no other reason to do it unless you just want to be in the ceremony every other day. That you're going to. I mean, why would you? The only reason you cheat is to make money, I guess. Wouldn't you think? I mean,
well, yeah.
What's the
Power and money are certainly the biggest driving factors here, and an obscene amount of money that's being made by this administration. And the cabinet members alone collectively have billions of dollars between them, and continue to profit.
Well, look, he wants $100,000 a month to give you a tip, like a tout at the racetrack. He's going to give you a tip on a horse. Now, when I was a kid, the touts, if you got a little bit of trouble, you go into the room with the security guard and you see the pictures of touts on the wall. That was against the law to tout. But apparently with Trump, it's not. He can tout out the stock tips and whatever else.
Yep.
10 minutes before, and he wants $100,000 a month to do this. And the rest of the country's like, oh, well, the Republicans are like, well, he's worth it. He's worth it. Why shouldn't he have about $20 billion? I mean,
exactly. He worked for it. He's earned it. No,
yeah, he worked hard for it. Yeah, they're hard workers. Like the Kushners are the hardest workers I've ever seen.
Oh, boy.
I mean, those guys have been they must have been bricklayers or something because.
Yeah, I can see them getting their hands dirty. I got to run to another call, my friend. All right, have a good night. Thanks, Jim. We got Frank and Elgin. What's on your mind, Frank?
Hey, what's up, Patty? I got two things for you. First, I want to make you smile before I go with the bad news. But so when I was a kid, the way I got my dad to stop taking me to the racetrack, because I know you had that, and it was all cool when we were little kids and stuff like that, but I got to be 13 years old, and I was going to the Axel roller rink with my friends and stuff like that, and a Saturday afternoon he wanted to take me to the thing. He made me go with him. So you know what I did? I picked up all the tickets as the race was going, and I started screaming for the last place horse. And everybody started picking up their tickets, and they were on. And my dad got so mad at me, he never took me again because I figured it out. I go, oh, it was great.
Was it the Axel roller rink on Milwaukee or on Harlem?
Harlem, come on.
I didn't know it was Norwich or I didn't know if it was Niles or Norwich. Yeah.
Yeah, we went to the Norwich one. The Niles one we went to here and there, but that was way smaller and not as cool.
No. Do you know what it is now? It's a Salvation Army now. It's a pretty good Salvation Army, the one on Milwaukee.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, the one on Harlem is they still have the AMC movie theaters there, or the Norwich Theater, but the Axle's gone. It's I can't forget. There's all kinds of places to eat.
It was a Go Bananas, I think was the name of it. It was kind of like an indoor amusement park for a little while, and then a kid got hurt on the indoor roller coaster that they had there. It was like a little mini roller coaster, yeah.
Oh, hey, but the other thing I wanted to say, and it's not crazy, but remember, I just don't think that we're getting the word out. You and I, Lady B, I was just talking to Lady B, we all know how important it is to vote. And you're screaming at the top of your lungs telling everybody how to vote, not how to vote, to vote. But I don't see it like when I seen Obama getting elected, how much TV advertisement were just people saying, get the vote out, make sure you vote, make sure you vote. I don't see that in the most consequential election that I've seen. Now I did see, Wisconsin, they had a great voter turnout and stuff like that. But I'm wondering how this is resonating across America. And I'm sure, of course, people are angry at them, and we're all going to vote blue. But I'm just wondering about the people who are not into politics, you know what I mean, and who don't vote.
I know.
We got to get them. I mean, that is the most important thing. And me and you don't have the money to advertise, but I would wish that somebody who was listening would put out some billboards, put out some TV advertisements, and make this the most consequential election of our lives.
And it is. And it's the work of organizing, too. I think you're right, Frank. I appreciate that, and it's a good point. You have a good night, my friend. Thank you so much for calling. I do have to take a break here. You're joining us I'm glad that you're here, tuning in for Driving It Home. I'm your host, Patti Vasquez. And when we come back, we're going to have a guest on the line I believe we're going to have a guest on the line with us. I don't see them. And we have Zoom now, so I can tell when someone's in the waiting room. Am I supposed to be on StreamYard? I don't know. All kinds of technology. We'll see what's happening. Oh, no, it's on phone. That's me, Lady B. I need to read my own schedule. Jon Marcus is going to join us in a moment. He's a higher education journalist. Let's talk to him in a moment about what's happening to our universities in the wake of immigration. Just the wild ride that we're all on when it comes to these ICE raids and immigration impacts. More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 and KTNF AM 950. And of course, we're broadcasting digitally as well. Join us.
Hey Progressives, it's Richard Chu, host of Chu's Views weekdays 6 to 8 a.m. Central. We're all anxious for the 2026 midterm election to arrive so we can restore some sanity and much-needed oversight to our government. In fact, it's the most important midterm election in American history, and Chu's Views will be in the thick of it, bringing you candidate interviews on a regular basis. I'll be talking to Democratic Party hopefuls running for House and Senate at the federal and state level, as well as candidates for governor and other state and local offices.
I am in love with our ability to fight for our rights, to fight for our future, to fight for our freedoms, to fight as our ancestors fought. It's just our moment. This is just our time to stand up and to speak up. We can't give up on this.
If you miss any of the interviews live, you'll be able to find them all on WCPT's candidate interviews page at heartlandsignal.com/candidates. That's Choose Views weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. We continue our drive home. Our next guest covers higher education for the Hechinger Report. He co-hosts the NPR podcast College Uncovered. He's written for the Washington Post, the Times, NPR, the Boston Globe, and Wired. Jon Marcus has published a piece this week with a headline that grabbed our attention. Once globally preeminent U.S. universities are sliding into decline. Jon, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about, your piece opens with a warning from 1945, from a wartime government report. Tell us about starting 80 years back and the story that is important now.
So academic research or scientific research that was done largely at universities was a really important part of the Allied victory during the Second World War. And at the end of the war, there were warnings to keep it going. There were concerns that funding for academic research would decline. In response to that, the government put money into academic research and more money after Sputnik. And the research that was done at U.S. universities and colleges really kind of propelled the economy, especially the tech economy that developed at the end of the 20th century. And so what struck us about that moment was it's happening again. We now see threats to research funding for universities, although funding cuts under this presidential administration have largely been reinstated by the courts. The money has been doled out very, very slowly, and there are proposals now to shift a lot of that funding away from universities.
So it's not, and again, it's not like a one policy. There's, as you mentioned, there's these cuts. Then there's also research funding cuts, visa delays, deportations of student activists, social media screening. I mean, what a bonkers time we're living in. How do those compound?
Yes, I think bonkers time is the technical description. What we wanted to look at was it is incontrovertible that the U.S. higher education system is one of the industries that's been most successful in this country. In fact, higher education is our sixth biggest service industry, mostly based on the $40 billion a year that international students spend on their university educations and their housing and everything else that they spend when they're here in the United States. So we have been sort of, because of the federal funding, we've really kind of dominated the world in higher education. The smartest people wanted to come and teach here. The smartest people wanted to come and study here. A disproportionate number of Nobel laureates worked at U.S. universities. Many of them had come here from other countries. Now that's starting to reverse. We're seeing a lot of really top scholars leave the United States. They're going to places like China. We're seeing far, far fewer international students. There was a huge decline this year. There's a projected additional decline in the coming year of 111,000 fewer international students. And so what we once had, what we once were preeminent in higher education globally, we're slipping.
And that's, and I think it's I struggle to drive this home, this idea, right? Which is that, you know, there are a lot of people who, when they're writing a check for their kids' tuition, they're not interested in hearing about international students and not really grasping, or I mean, and we can't like explain to every single person. Those international students subsidize everybody else's tuition, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's so important. More than 300 colleges and universities since the beginning of the Trump administration have announced budget cuts and layoffs. And a portion of those have attributed that specifically to the decline in international enrollment. International students, as you say, subsidize American ones. 80% of them pay the full tuition. Some of them pay additional fees and a higher tuition than domestic students.
Whoa.
At some public universities. And so the money from that source, universities like to say that they enroll international students because of the cultural diversity they bring. And there's some truth to that. But much more important is the money. And the result of this is be careful what you wish for, because right now, the international students that are going everywhere else, that means cuts in majors, cuts in staffing, cuts in advisors for domestic students. And probably, although not one single university would talk to me about this, and literally all of the universities that have seen large international enrollment declines have also increased their tuition. None of them would say one way or the other whether that was a result, but it's logical to assume that it is.
And now we're talking about how there's more than a quarter of private colleges that no one's talking about this, Jon, that more than a quarter of private colleges could close or merge within a decade, which would put over 670,000 students in limbo. Can you talk to us a little bit about which institutions are more exposed? And,
yes.
and here's the thing, talk about what happens to a college town when this happens.
Colleges already are closing last year at a pace of about one a week. That slowed down. The colleges that are most vulnerable are local, meaning they don't have a national name. They are small, typically under 1,000 students. They are tuition dependent, meaning that they don't have big multi-billion-dollar endowments. Often they are religiously affiliated. More than half of the colleges and universities that have closed have been religiously affiliated. The other kinds of colleges that are particularly at risk are rural colleges and single-gender colleges, of which there are still several colleges, mostly all women colleges.
Of course. I mean, I don't know why that's not surprising. So one of the things that I learned from the work that you're doing and then looking at it some more is the DHS rule taking effect. Is that taking effect next month that caps international students at 4 years, which means if you're in the middle of if you're doing a PhD, that's not PhDs don't get finished in 4 years necessarily, do they? Or other degrees?
Yes, that's absolutely true. It's really hard to finish any program, including an undergraduate degree, in 4 years. Fewer than half of any kinds of students at four-year universities actually graduate in 4 years. It's one of the dirty little secrets of higher education. And so this, it's called a duration of stay rule. A number of organizations just this week have sued to stop it. But, you know, all of these things put together, including what you mentioned, the detentions, the deportations, the social media reviews, students can't even get appointments that they need to get a student visa at the embassies and consulates. At this point, college students that might have considered the United States, they're going every place else because there are a lot of other countries that want them. And if you're an international student, would you come to the United States right now? Probably not.
No. And here's the thing. You wouldn't want to come here, but also we're losing, at this rate, we might be losing an entire generation of people who have a background in science and medicine, right?
We are heavily dependent on international students, especially in graduate and doctoral programs. But many graduate programs, because of federal funding cuts, have stopped taking students. We've already been passed by China. China now produces more PhDs in science, technology, engineering, and math than we do. And now, obviously, they have a larger population, but the pace of growth is also 5 times faster than here in the United States. So we've always kind of taken for granted the strength of our universities and colleges. They're still ranked among the best in the world. They still attract more international students than any other country, but that's slipping. And you mentioned earlier that your readers might not care. They ought to care, because this affects all of us. This affects our economy. This affects our global competitiveness.
Before we let you go, I just want to know, what do you want to leave our audience with? I mean, one is staying on top of stories like this, whether it's with the following. Are you on social media sharing these stories as well from the Hechinger Report?
Yes, all of our stories. The easiest way to find us is at HechingerReport.org. It's HECHINGER, report, all one word, .org. And as far as takeaways, I mean, higher education has let us down in the last 15 years. It's gotten insanely expensive. What people were getting for their money was comparatively poor. So not all of this is about the politics. A lot of the international students that stopped coming just couldn't afford it anymore, even from wealthy countries, to pay the full tuition and an extra surcharge. So I think what we all need to take away from this is that we need this to get fixed, because not everyone has to go to college, but somebody has to. And so we have to have a strong higher education system to train the people who will keep this knowledge economy moving.
And you have, a way for folks to share information with you as well. Is that right? You want to?
Yes.
Yes. Let folks know about that too.
There's all kinds of contact information at the Hechinger Report, and at the end of all of my stories is a way to contact me. I'd love to hear from readers. I know there are a million stories out there, unfortunately, mostly of frustration, and probably of people who work at universities and colleges who are seeing what's going on right now and equally frustrated. There are some really good people that work at universities, but in general, they haven't really served us well in the last 15 years.
Well, thank you for doing this work and for sharing your insight with us. I really appreciate it. Again, the article we're talking about, the piece is Once Globally Preeminent, U.S. Universities Are Sliding into Decline. That's at the HechingerReport.org. And the piece is by Jon Marcus. We look forward to talking to you again, my friend. Thank you so much for this.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you again soon. Let's take a break here, and we'll come back in just a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150, as well as everywhere digitally. Hi, everybody. And we're going to talk to Dan Ashurst. I need to ask people to make sure I know how to say their names. Executive Director of FairVote Illinois, in just a moment. Thank you for hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. We'll see scattered showers and thunderstorms tonight with a low temperature of 68 degrees and southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Wednesday, we'll see a slight chance of thunderstorms, but most of the area stays dry. High temperature of 76. Sunny Thursday, high temperature of 78. Friday, scattered showers and thunderstorms with a high temperature around 80 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 75.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
If you're looking to purchase a loved one's home after they passed away, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Pam wanted to purchase her grandmother's $400,000 home after she passed away, which was left to Pam's father, Ted, and her Aunt Betty. Ted listens to my show and wanted to forego his half of the equity of his mom's home and sell Pam the home for $200,000. Bad move. I recommended Pam purchase the home for $400,000 and get a gift of equity from her father, Ted, for $200,000. Which enabled Pam to purchase the home with a lower rate and no money out of her pocket. Let's review. I helped Pam purchase her grandmother's home without having to bring a penny to the closing and secure a lower rate. Team Hochberg's helped thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com.
Atlantic Coast Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 643114.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Great news for those Chicagoans heading up to southern Wisconsin. Should you ever forget to load up on progressive brews from the local favorites like Rogers Park Provisions or Park West Liquor in Lincoln Park, Minocqua Brewing Company beer is now conveniently available at Dream Liquor and Cigar in Kenosha and in the Lake Geneva area at Delavan Liquor and Smoke in Delavan. If the great town of Madison, Wisconsin is your jam, please remember to swing into the Minocqua Brewing Company tap room at 2927 East Washington Avenue to grab some Resistance beer, pizza, t-shirts, and progressive camaraderie.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. We continue our drive home. You know, we've talked about ranked choice voting quite a bit on this show, and I'm pretty passionate about it. When I'm at the Jefferson Park Sunday Market, I'm always excited when I see the FairVote Illinois table on the Parkway. And let's talk a little bit. First of all, last Tuesday, Wisconsin Democrats picked a nominee for governor. David Crowley beat Francesca Hong by 3,783 votes out of nearly 800,000 cast, which is about a half a percentage point. And I think that the thing is, on that same ballot, 68,343 votes went to candidates who had already quit the state race. So it was a lot of chaos going on in that race, and which means that there were people who had no say in the actual choice. Part of that was because people actually dropped out of the race after ballots had already been sent out. But I do want to talk about ranked choice voting with our friends from FairVote Illinois, and with this case, this particular example, on how things might have been different had there been ranked choice voting. We're talking to Dan Ashurst. Am I saying your name correctly? I asked you right before we started, and I just want to make sure. Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. So let's talk about that. Like, you know, what kind of an impact can it have in a race that's so close, like the one in Wisconsin, where you have two candidates that drop out, one that drops out and comes back in? I mean, there was a lot going on, which...
Yeah, so in a race like Wisconsin's, it's a perfect example of why we advocate for ranked choice voting. When a voter votes for a candidate that drops out of the race by the time Election Day rolls around, we want those voters to be able to express a second choice.
I think that's one of the great examples. Is it if something, God forbid, happens along the way before the actual election day? Now your vote, then, so folks know what that would have happened. Let's say they voted for Sarah Rodriguez in a mail-in ballot, but they chose Francesca Hong as the number 2 candidate, right? Now their vote counts.
Yeah, so their vote could transfer very easily from their first choice to their second choice if their first choice is unable to win. And yeah, that's just ultimately a more democratic system. And as you mentioned, I think it's quite a good many voters, like 96,000 voters voted for candidates that were not in the top 2. And as you said, 68,000 voting for candidates that had dropped out. They weren't even in the race anymore. So putting those together, we want voters to be able to have a second choice and make their vote count to the highest extent that it can.
Is that what's considered zombie votes?
Yeah, so zombie vote would be those 68,000, those candidates voters who voted for candidates that have dropped out by the time Election Day rolls around. And
I mean, I don't even really think about how often it happened, because so for an example, I ran for office in 2020, and I, like 2 weeks before Election Day, I've never told this story on the air ever. Somebody who was working for the incumbent's office, who was working on her campaign, desperately came to my house, desperately asking me to drop out of the race because she was such a terrible person and they felt that if I dropped out, then the third candidate would have a chance. right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. And here's the thing, just so you know, I only came within 4 points in a 3-way race, right? And so she didn't even get 50%. But at any rate, I remember sitting there thinking, like, what a wild thing, first of all, to ask me. And, like, if people actually do that, how does that work for people who already voted, for the amount of money that you already spent on a campaign, for people who believe in your campaign? I mean, like, anyway, but so people do drop out. I just thought it was so bonkers.
Yeah. Ultimately, the way that we run our elections, it only really feels like the top 2 vote getters in a race are the ones that are really have any chance of winning because of the way that we tabulate our votes. So ranked choice voting would help with that, certainly that problem. But as you said, it's great too that we want voters to have more choices. Like, people shouldn't feel like they have to drop out of the race. Like, you shouldn't have been pressured to drop out, and it happens all the time. In Wisconsin, certainly it was the reason that people dropped out. A few of the candidates dropped out was because they were worried about splitting the vote. And so voters just can't vote for them at the end of the day. And if they've already casted their votes for them, then your vote gets thrown out.
Well, and that, to that point about splitting the vote, right? And again, coming back to the race that I was in, everyone figured, well, if there's 2 women in the race, then the guy, that's why they were trying to get me to drop out. They figured the guy could then win the race, even though ultimately he only got 22% of the vote and I got 36 or 37. But at any rate, there are conversations right now. Let's talk about the highest office in the land, that they worry that if a woman runs again, or a person of color, or a gay person, that we're not going to win. And a lot of that is because, well, one, there's partly the Electoral College. There's obviously this energy about, whether it's tradition or culture, all different kinds of elements play into it. But with ranked choice voting, then you have, well, this is the person I want, right? For whatever value alignment we have, and they're a woman or they're gay, and then at least the next person is as close as I can get to that, right?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. One of the things that we look at in our research is how women and people of color in particular are often told that they should drop out of the race because of the way that we vote. And so it's our system is incentivizing it affects women and people of color more. They more often are being told, you're going to split the vote. You need to drop out of the race. There's another black candidate or another Latino candidate that's going to be able to consolidate the vote. So ranked choice voting just makes it where you don't really have to worry about that as much. More candidates can compete.
I'll tell you this much. The guy who ran in the race jumped in after petitions had already been out for, 6 or 7 weeks, because he was watching and he figured, well, if a guy gets in the race, then I can win this. Like, he told me the day after, literally apologized for running. Which was really funny to me. Just saying. But to that, it's not just that they're the ones that are asked to drop out of the race. They're told not to run in the first place.
Yeah.
That's I think is even more catastrophic.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and in places that use RCV, we've seen that women and people of color tend to have much more of a chance to compete. In particular, what always stands out to me is in New York City, after the first ever ranked choice voting election in their city council, the representation for women went from 16 city council members to 31 city council members out of 50. So it was the first time in the history of New York City that it was an all-women city council and an all-women of color city council. That's what we could have in Chicago. We could have more competitive elections, more representative elections.
Jeez. Sorry, apparently someone's calling me to tell me they don't like it's sound like a sound effect or something. It's so loud. The other thing is that none of these candidates, when you don't have ranked choice voting, you also, like in primaries, let's say Wisconsin, nobody's getting 50%.
Yeah.
So now you don't even have a simple majority of people who want this candidate to be on the general election ballot.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's actually one of the reasons that we see party officials, people often think that parties are going to tend to be against ranked choice voting. That's not necessarily true, because as you mentioned in primaries, if you're in the Democratic Party or you're in the Republican Party, you want your primary candidate to have the broadest support possible coming out of that primary so they can go compete and be effective in November. So if you have candidates winning with 40% of the vote, that's a very weak mandate to run for your party in November.
Yeah.
Ultimately, with ranked choice voting, you get to say, well, I received, 40% of first choice votes, but I also was able to get support from people's second or third choices enough to win the election. So I have stronger voter support and a stronger Democratic mandate.
And if you have just the simple majority, plurality, right? That's the plurality of it. Then because you have, let's say, 60, 70% of the people in your district or your area didn't vote for you, the people that what you're most beholden to are the people with the money and the power that got you the votes that you got.
Yeah,
that helped you get there.
Yep, that core base is really, it becomes all you really have to appeal to is the fervent. As long as you can get that 35, 40%, that's good enough.
Yeah.
And that often tends to incentivize extremism too, because you don't actually have to convince a majority of people. You don't really have to convince independents. You just have to convince enough people to get more votes than anybody else under our current system.
And it also lends itself, of course, to that is when you say extremism is the negative campaigning. And within a political party, it also diminishes the people who are in for the right reasons, that want to do the work, and now you shred them and you eliminate good candidates.
Yeah,
permanently.
It's always funny after every single primary that we have. It's funny to watch all the candidates just eviscerate each other in negative attack ads, but then right when the election's over, they completely flip and they say, "Oh well, now I'm going to support the candidate because there are Democratic." Well, that doesn't happen all the time.
I did not. Because part of that is also the person that does it needs to be held accountable for it. Who does the negative campaigning, who destroys a family or puts out stuff that. So I'll just be very honest. So I was the mailers were that I was discussing extremists who couldn't protect women in the cases of rape and incest, and I'm a survivor of childhood sexual violence. I'm a rape survivor, and that alone was women are already told. I mean, survivors are often told that we don't believe you. You didn't tell it, like that kind of stuff. It would be enough if it was just that traumatizing and weaponizing rape and also in this race homicide. But a woman, what got me was that I was doing a podcast and this young woman told me she'd been brutally raped when she was 17 years old and used to think about running for office until she saw the mailers with my face on it and said, well, if Patti can't get, if this is what they're going to do to a woman like me, I can't get in this race. So it has, an even more tentacles that reach out.
Yeah, it's horrible. I remember seeing ads in my district. I won't say which district just not to upset anyone, but I remember seeing ads accusing the other candidate of being supportive of ICE in the Democratic primary and being supportive of particular violence being committed by ICE. And I was really struck by that too.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. That kind of negative campaigning, that kind of not just negative campaigning, but viciously personally attacking each other. We don't want to incentivize that in our political system. We ultimately, anything that we can do to systematically disincentivize that, we don't want that to be a winning strategy to attack each other.
That's what I demand is why I did not support the I just didn't show up. And that's the thing. I am a loud door. I will be on doors. I will, speak at rallies, whatever. But I have no reason to get involved if someone won't take accountability for the way they act.
Yeah.
I demand that.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of a glitch.
Yeah, it's fundamental to basic respect in the country, and it feels like the country is in many ways being pulled apart by that sort of rhetoric and that sort of language. And so we all have to do everything we can to fight back against that, especially as it just continues to get worse at the highest levels of the country.
When we come back, let's talk about how we can better communicate with folks who are skeptical and what elements of ranked choice voting can be, enhanced so that people do feel like it's safe. I think is what elements of it do lend itself to being a safe form of democracy. Let's take a break here. We're going to continue our conversation with our guest, Dan Ashurst, who is Executive Director of FairVote Illinois. You can go to fairvoteillinois.org to learn more. We'll also find out about any events coming up or how you can get involved. And if you have any questions, you can text me at 773-763-9278. That's 773-763-9278. More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KK KKNW 1150, and of course, all of our friends tuning in digitally. We're so happy to have you here.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. Whether you're out in the field playing football or baseball, or inside the stadium playing hockey or basketball, or any sport really, let's take a look at some sporting goods stores that support the Democratic Party. Academy. Now, Academy as a company does not give to politics. Some of their senior leaders do, and in 2024, 87% of their donations went to Democrats. Hibbett. Now, Hibbett as a company does not give to politics, but some of their senior leaders do, and in 2024, 93% of those donations went to Democrats. Dick's Sporting Goods. Now, Dick's Sporting Goods as a company does not give to politics. Yes, some of their senior leaders do, and it's kind of a little all over. Sometimes lean more right, sometimes lean more left. It's really hard to find a pattern. But hey, remember when the right was attacking Dick's Sporting Goods when they decided to push the age of purchasing firearms to 21 and stop selling assault-styled rifles? This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
Every 16 seconds, an American receives a cancer diagnosis, and every minute of every day, another person loses their life to cancer. That's why Stand Up to Cancer has set a bold goal to make early-stage detection an essential part of standard of care for all cancers. So often, if cancer is detected early, the chance of long-term survival is 90%. So if we all support cancer research, more than 2 million lives can be saved in the next decade. So join the mission and help save lives today at standuptocancer.org.
Don't let biased algorithms or degree screens or exclusive professional networks or stereotypes. Don't let anything keep you from discovering the half of the workforce who are stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time to tear the paper ceiling and see the stars beyond it. Find out how you can make stars part of your talent strategy at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. We continue our conversation here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 in Seattle, and of course all of our friends tuning in digitally. I was talking to, we have in studio with us, Executive Director for FairVote Illinois, Dan Ashurst. You can go to FairVoteIllinois.org. Again, that's FairVoteIllinois.org. I mentioned at the top of the show, I was talking to Daniel Squadron, who is one of the co-founders and president of the company that is the parent company for Heartland Signal. He's written the book, The Fourth Branch. And we were talking about ranked choice voting. He agrees it's crucial for our next steps of how we accomplish the promise of our Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And he said, but there's so much skepticism. What are some of the elements of ranked choice voting that you can touch on that will soothe folks who have concerns?
Yeah, so one of the reasons that we advocate for ranked choice voting in the form of it that we do is because it is a hand recountable system. So that's like the most important thing. We want people to trust the results. We want to be able to have a fully transparent process. What we don't want is having a bunch of numbers go into a computer and spit out a result. We want to be able to audit the result. So with ranked choice voting, the same rules will apply for election security. So, for example, in legislation that we're working on for local option RCV in Springfield, we are establishing that the vote data that comes out of a ranked choice voting machine has the exact same security standards as a ballot in state law. So if you trust that your ballots are being handled correctly now, you can trust that the ranked choice voting data that's coming out of these machines is also being handled with the exact same level of care.
Because I do get a listener who calls and texts, and just there are people who are just very adamant. And I mean, I guess part of me is like, clearly this isn't working.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to say it, Dan, right?
Yeah. It's, I always say, like, there's no perfect voting system, and like you said, our current voting system is pretty bad. So ranked choice voting is the if we're going to fix it in the next few years here, it's going to be ranked choice voting. That's the one that's got all the steam behind it.
I do want to talk about Illinois, because I didn't realize that last Thursday, on August 13th, a Cook County judge dismissed the Evanston ranked choice case again without prejudice, so plaintiffs can add the State Board of Election and Dominion as parties. Evanston passed ranked choice voting with 82%. I didn't even realize it was that high. Oak Park passed it with 79%. Skokie's passed it, and they both Oak Park and Skokie intend to use it in April 2027. So where does that land us right now?
Yeah. So as you said, those 3 cities, those are the first cities in Illinois to ever pass a ranked choice voting referendum. We were the people who played a big role in leading that. We believe that those are already legal under the Illinois Constitution. There's broad authority for cities to adopt whatever method they want for electing their officials. But we are currently working on legislation that would just make it easier for those cities to implement and would really explicitly clarify every step of the process. So we're working with clerks right now to perfect that process. The good news is it's already been used in over 50 cities in the country in the last 25 years. So there's plenty of other examples to look to of what are the best practices for securely and safely implementing ranked choice voting.
I did not realize that the Cook County clerk was standing against this. Is that right?
More or less.
The state law prohibits it.
So
is their take.
The Cook County clerk's take is that the election code currently doesn't, I guess I don't want to speak for them too much. My understanding of their take is that the election code doesn't currently explicitly provide for ranked choice voting. So they say, well, how are we going to implement this if it doesn't explicitly provide for it? So there's 2 ways to go about that. I mean, one way is that, in Illinois, local municipalities have this broad authority to adopt it. So we would say that the county should work with those local municipalities to find a way to implement the will of the people. On the other hand, certainly we want to support clerks. We want to make it easier for clerks to implement it. So my take on it personally is that legislation would be helpful. It would be helpful for clerks, certainly. And it helps with, as you said, people's concerns about election integrity. Like, we want to make sure that everything is laid out as clearly as possible. I think there are ways to do that at the local level, but it's certainly helpful to have state standards as well.
So what is the legislative track then? I mean, I know that I think Representative Cam Buckner's worked on this, State Senator Laura Murphy, just to name a couple off the top of my head. Where are we with has it made it out of committee in the past several years?
It has not yet made it out of committee, unfortunately.
I'm so surprised, Dan.
But I will say, I would say we are now in the best position, I think, to pass it next year than we have ever been, primarily because at FairVote Illinois, we recently led a process bringing together RCV experts to really hash out the bill, really be very, very careful about making sure that we're nailing all the different questions that clerks have. And now we're starting to, engage with clerks really early. So we've been engaging with clerks now to make sure that when the bill comes up in 2027, it's really ready to go. So I think that this time has been a lot cleaner. So I have confidence that we can get an RCV local option bill. Then again, I'm an optimistic person, but we'll see what happens.
Well, this is how we help out, which is folks can call there, and I've talked a lot about this, folks. I've told you, please, first of all, pull out your voter ID card, but your voter registration card that you get it all the time. You get it I feel like I get it every twice a year. That tells you who your state representative is, who your state senator is, who your alderman, all that information, and call them, right? Say, this is something I'm interested in. Where do you stand on this, and how do I have conversation about getting across the finish line, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a form at fairvoteillinois.org/links where people can find their representative, send them an email, call their office, even just a quick 15-second phone call that's like, hey, I support ranked choice voting. I support voters having more choice and more power at the ballot box. I hope that you will vote yes on ranked choice voting legislation if it comes up next year. That always can go a long way.
Excellent. And do you have any events or what are other ways people can get involved and support the work that you do at FairVote Illinois?
Yeah, if you go to fairvoteillinois.org, you can sign up for our email list. There's a big button that says join the movement. That will get you in the loop on if there's ever opportunities to advance ranked choice voting in Illinois, opportunities where it's particularly important to call your representative at a certain time. We'll let you know about that. We also have plenty of events at FairVote Illinois, so we'll actually be out at Oak Park. There's a big microbrew event this weekend, this Saturday, where we're going to have people ranking the different beers that they get to try at the event. That's one of our favorite things to do, rank your beers.
Yes.
So that'll be a lot of fun. That's at fairvoteillinois.org/events.
Outstanding. Again, we're so grateful to our guest, Dan Ashurst, who's the executive director of FairVote Illinois. Also, find your FairVote chapter in your area, and that's fairvoteillinois.org here in the Chicagoland area. Thank you so much, Dan. I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me.
Absolutely. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150. We're going to talk to Jen Schroeder in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. I mean, you can, but I'd rather you didn't, and I don't want to beg.
Upgrade your summer drives with the stunning performance of a Porsche. Find the perfect model for you at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our extensive selection like the 2026 Porsche Cayenne. Right now, lease the 2026 Cayenne for just $1149 a month for 39 months. Discover performance like no other when you visit the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $10,859 to its signing for qualified buyers. Excludes tax, title, license, and dealer fee. No security deposit required. See dealer for details. Offer ends 8/31/26.
Everyone needs to take care of their mental health, even running back Bijan Robinson.
When I'm on the field and feeling the pressure, I usually just take a deep breath. When I'm just breathing and seeing what's in front of me, everything just slows down. It just makes me feel great before I run the play.
Just like Bijan, we all need a strong mental game on and off the field. Make a game plan for your mental health at loveyourmindplaybook.org.
Love your mind.
Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation, the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation, and the Ad Council.
The all-new Pro Battery by Steel. Tackle any task with 60% more peak power, exclusively available at your local Steel dealer. 60% peak power comparison between AP300 PC and AP300F.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Primary season is nearing an end, and voters in 4 states have been casting ballots today. Julie Walker has an overview.
Alaska, Florida, and Wyoming hold primaries as California voters pick a successor for Representative Eric Swalwell, who resigned from Congress amid sexual assault allegations earlier this year. In Florida, Trump-backed Byron Donalds is running to become the state's first black governor. Redistricting has created skirmishes for Democrats in Florida House races. Wyoming sees open seats for governor, U.S. Senate, and U.S. House. And in a closely watched race in Alaska, incumbent Republican Senator Dan Sullivan, a Trump ally, faces another candidate also named Dan Sullivan. These contests will shape the fiercely contested midterms this fall and offer a referendum on President Trump's second term. I'm Julie Walker.
President Trump says the U.S. has no planned talks with Iran. At the same time, he's insisting the Strait of Hormuz remains open. However, the UK Maritime Trade Operations Center says the engine room of a ship exiting the strait today near Oman was hit, resulting in a crew casualty. Iran says the waterway will not reopen until the U.S. meets its conditions. Oil prices edged higher, Brent crude settling above $91 per barrel. And Marcela Sanchez reports Disney's filed a lawsuit against the Federal Communications Commission,
alleging a violation of its First Amendment rights. In April, the FCC launched an early review of 8 ABC local broadcast licenses, well before they were set to expire. The FCC review also came during an ongoing fight with late-night host Jimmy Kimmel over a joke that offended President Trump. Tuesday's lawsuit comes after FCC Chairman Brendan Carr recently defended the agency's actions against ABC, saying broadcasters have a duty to operate in the public interest. Marcela Sanchez, Washington.
This is AP News. There was a significant art heist in Italy over the weekend. Karen Chamas has the story.
4 major artworks by Sicilian Renaissance painter Antonello da Messina have been stolen from a museum in Messina in Sicily. The museum was closed while investigators gathered evidence. Messina's councillor for culture, Enzo Caruso, said one of Antonello's works was bought by Italy's Ministry of Culture in February for €15 million. He believes the sale had put a spotlight on the painter's works. The thieves bypassed alarm systems in the evening. The theft follows a separate case in which 3 stolen artworks by Renoir, Cézanne and Matisse were recovered in the Italian city of Parma. 5 people have been detained in connection with that case. I'm Karen Chamas.
There's more news at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. We'll see scattered showers and thunderstorms tonight with a low temperature of 68 degrees and southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Wednesday, we'll see a slight chance of thunderstorms, but most of the area stays dry. High temperature of 76. Sunny Thursday, high temperature of 78. Friday, scattered showers and thunderstorms with a high temperature around 80 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 75.
Hi, I'm Tim Meadows. You've heard the phrase out with the old and in with the new, right? Well, buckle up because Stand Up to Cancer's vehicle donation program makes it easy to turn your old vehicle into new life-saving cancer research. More than 2 million Americans hear the words, "You have cancer," each year. That's why Stand Up to Cancer is dedicated to funding cancer research focused on finding cures. Donating is easy, pickup is free, and your gift may qualify for a tax deduction. Visit standuptocancer.org/cars to learn more.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling, the limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our drive home here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 in Seattle and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. Of course, we want to thank our friends who are tuning in digitally on Facebook, YouTube, and now Minocqua Brewing Company Substack. And of course, all of our shows are available at heartlandsignal.com as podcasts. And thank you to our sponsors, Pride Coffee Roasters. Go to pridecoffeeroasters.com and put in an order for some of the best single origin roasted to order coffee beans you have ever had, and they'll be joining us at the Jefferson Park Sunday Market this Sunday, 9:30 to 1:30 at Jefferson Park proper. Again, that's pridecoffeeroasters.com. Visit source.solar and make an appointment with Peter Sorellis. Maybe it's time to get solar panels on your house or business, and he will walk you through that entire process. He is partnered with Illinois Solar for All to walk you through the financing part of it as well. We want to thank our friends at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We're honored to be partnering with them for the Walk Out of Darkness on October 3rd, and we'll have more details about that to come. And we appreciate their support as well as Social Change. Go to socialchange.site. And our friends at Minocqua Brewing Company put in an order for maybe a 4-pack or 2 of some fascist tears. They're delicious. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in wherever you are. I'm thrilled to welcome back our guest, Jen Schroeder. She's founded the Unobsolete, where she fights age bias in the workplace and builds exit strategies for professionals over 45. And you know what? This is when the ground is moving under a lot of people. Jen, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you, Patty?
I'm doing all right. I thought about you, not just in regards to this upcoming conversation we're going to have, but I saw somebody who I've known for a while start their own business on LinkedIn. I was really excited for her. She's in her 40s, and she just became like an independent policy consultant. And I was like, well, yeah, that sounds amazing, right? Are you finding a lot more people who are like, you know what? I have this experience, I have this wisdom, and now I know how to put it to work for people other than a toxic workplace, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best way to go because you control it.
Yeah. But it's scary for folks. What are some of the things you can tell people about what that world is like, how to get started in being an independent contractor or starting your own business?
I think starting small is the best way to go. I started really small when I did it. I started with creating courses, and I just wanted to pay for my kids' lunch at the time and when they were in school. So I think starting small is the best way to go, having a good runway built up, and having a plan for an exit strategy. So something like 6 months, you're going to leave. So get your ducks in a row before you go and get started.
But again, I think like people think they have to have so many elements in place. Like I've got to have a certain number of followers. I've got to have, the perfect LinkedIn page. I have to have a website, right?
Yeah, no, everybody does. And perfection is the thing that stops everyone from starting, I think. And for me, I think I'm a perfect example of just put your 1 foot forward. Take one step every day and don't worry about the perfection because you're never going to get started if you keep overthinking it. So just start. The first thing to do is just take that first step and then the next one will follow.
Yeah. I mean, it's daunting. I know you say, and here's the thing, because no matter what age you are, whatever you're in feels permanent, doesn't it? Whether it's
it does.
Right. The brain tricks us.
It feels permanent. Yep. It does. And you just feel like you just can't make a change. You're stuck and that's where you're going to be. And that's just us giving in to that thought process. And you just have to change your mindset and just change your thoughts.
What are you hearing about? Like, is there a wave of layoffs that you're hearing about? Because I mean, it seems like there is a lot of change going on in the labor force right now.
Yeah, layoffs are, they're tricky these days. So they're trying to avoid, in many cases, they're trying to avoid the big layoffs where they have to do the WARN Act and stick with all the things that you have to do with a sizable layoff. So what they do is they just do these rolling layoffs now where they don't have to meet all those rules and things. But there are a lot of layoffs, and then there are a lot of push-outs as well that are just happening with the older workforce. And the younger workforce too. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, there's a lot going on out there.
Well, with everybody, isn't AI like the new alibi that we're restructuring for AI? And is that real transformation, or how much is legally a safer way of saying we could do without you?
Yeah, I think AI is being used, in many cases, AI is being used as an excuse to lay people off because the truth is, as you get older, you get more expensive. So they're the first people to go. So anyone, that starts pushing the limit over 45 and being more expensive, and they're having a difficult year, or, numbers are down or whatever, you're going to be the first people to go. So instead of saying, oh gosh, this is just problems with our company, they like to blame AI and say, well, we're going to just, AI is changing everything. And AI is changing everything, but it isn't changing necessarily that one thing. So it is an excuse in many cases.
And I think people are really afraid of it too. I mean, are you talking to folks about learning AI? Because I kind of feel like our generation has this unique position because young people are very worried about it, see it very negatively, and I kind of feel like for us that we've accumulated so much information and experience. For me, it kind of helps me organize a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you can look at AI as an employee if you want to within your business.
My assistant. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And, even in my own, I couldn't move and help as many people as I do today if I didn't have the assistance of AI. So you have to learn how to leverage that for your particular business. And I think the people that will move further down the road faster, especially if they're looking to do their own thing after corporate, will, if they use AI properly or in a way that, makes sense for their business, they'll move a lot faster and be more successful.
Yeah, for folks who worry about it, I do think that there's a way to disclose, like I just said, I use AI as an employee. I use it to process things, to get through a lot of material that I might otherwise take me I wouldn't get through the day, honestly, at this point with the number of things that I'm doing, right?
Right. Oh, I couldn't either. I help a lot of people every day with a lot of calls and individual one-on-ones that I have to use my judgment on those calls, but I have to get a summary quickly of what's happening. And I couldn't do that without the assistance of AI.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just figuring that out, how you can use it for yourself.
I'm going to open the phone lines if you don't mind. If anybody has any questions for you, I'd love for them to join us because I know that you help folks. I want everyone to check out the website, theunobsolete.com. That's theunobsolete.com. And again, Jen Schroeder is a workplace advocate for professionals over 45 years and the founder of the Unobsolete. 773-763-9278 if you want to call in or text a question. If you maybe want to find out how she can help you, you can do that right now and then you get a taste of what you can do to get some guidance. Because I think that one of the biggest things I have to imagine is healthcare. People don't want to leave.
Yes.
We're kind of we're enslaved sometimes, and I hate to say it that way, maybe, but we're held down by the fact that we can't leave a job because we have healthcare there.
Yeah, healthcare's a huge one, and healthcare's a big one in severance negotiations. A lot of people are married to the number, right? And you want that number because you see that, but the long-term effects of not having your healthcare are much almost more important than the number in many cases. So yes, there are things you can do to help yourself with that, though. If you're going down to a $0, if you're going from being the only breadwinner in the family to $0, you can potentially take the money from your severance and healthcare and go to healthcare.gov and get a better package.
What about, do you give guidance on investing in your own HSA? Because I didn't know until I no longer had that opportunity to just start my own HSA with Fidelity, for example.
Yeah, all those things. I don't think that HR departments are very good at explaining those, and I think that's not their fault in particular when the benefits people come around to do that. I think it's a very complicated, and we've made it even more complicated within our country. So I think that's something that people don't necessarily have the knowledge on. So yes, I do talk about that a lot with people when the opportunity comes up.
And you mentioned in your severance, is there a single clause that people maybe sign without reading them that costs them?
Yes, there are a couple things. So the non-disparagement clause is usually when you get a blanket severance. So when they hand you your first package or the first document, it's usually a non-disparagement clause saying you can't say anything negative about the company, but the company can do whatever they want to you, basically, negatively. And so that's one. The reference is another one. And then the rehire is probably the biggest one. So you want to make sure that you're always eligible for rehire and not, that severance negotiation, depending on how it came about, that's something that you want to negotiate. So the terms are that because when employers call to check, they will check to see, usually it's going to be the dates of employment and things of that nature. It's going to be pretty small, but they'll also check to see if you're eligible for rehire. So that's very important to have in that negotiated package as well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in a situation where I've had to sign any severance packages. Do they give you this whole packet and expect you to just sit there and read it there and sign it there? Or are you sent home with the severance package? How does that work?
Most of the time they'll send you home with it. Sometimes they'll pressure you to sign it in the room. But those are some, nowadays they give you, if you're over 40, you get 21 days to sign. So the OWBPA, the Older Workers Benefit Protection Act, will gives you, under that law, you have 21 days to sign. And then from the date you sign, you have 7 days to revoke. So they have to give you that time frame. And but if you're under 40, they don't have to give you that time frame. And asking for a week is not unusual. It's not unreasonable to ask for, but a lot of people will just be pressured to sign in the room if you're oftentimes. And you don't want to do that because it's a very emotional situation. You need time to read it and think about it.
Should you also consider hiring a lawyer?
Yes. In many cases, you can have. The problem with hiring a lawyer in many cases is the fees that are associated with it. But if it's a complicated severance or there's potentially something that you feel like you might have a case on, a protected class violation or an FMLA retaliation situation, then yeah, you should always consult an attorney in those situations, definitely, because they can get you a better package in some cases. Then you may, find that you might have a case that you may want to pursue.
Yeah, and you don't want to miss anything in that severance package either, or misunderstand something. Make sure that you got someone who's going over it, right?
Yes, yes. You want to make sure that you definitely have somebody that they can review it and understand it for you and find the gotchas.
What do you want people to know about the hiring bias? Because the EEOC's data shows that older workers make up under 5% of new hires at most establishments. And so if the resume is the filter, how do you tell? What do you tell people to do in those instances?
There's two schools of thought on that. I don't think that I'm probably more on the side of the normal one, which is nowadays they want you to shorten your resume and take a lot of your age, things that would age you on that resume out. I don't subscribe to that theory. I think if you earn that knowledge, you should be able to keep it on your resume. You just have to be succinct in the discussion of, what you did, because you've done a lot of things in 20, 30 years. And I think resumes, when we were from our generation, I think that most people we write our resumes different than they want them to now. They want to see very results-driven resumes. So they want to see what results you drove in that case. So you want to write your resume more results-driven rather than a story.
What do you want to leave people with about the work that you do, and so how they get some help with you, consulting, some path forward in all of this madness?
Yeah. So if you're having trouble at work, or you're having it could be a toxic work situation, it could be a harassment situation, it could be severance, performance improvement plans and things of that nature, you can always schedule calls with me. I do consulting on that, and I have several different packages that I'll out there to work with people and customize to their unique situation, because no two situations are exactly the same. So they can schedule that with me if they want to, and all that's on the website.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much, Jen Schroeder, the Unobsolete.com. She's a workplace advocate for professionals over 45 years old, and again, founder of the Unobsolete, and she fights age bias and builds exit strategies. Thank you so much for the work that you do. It's great to see you again, and I hope that you get to enjoy the rest of your summer. I don't know what the weather's like. I know you're in the South, right?
Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah.
It's hot.
Well, stay hydrated, my friend. I appreciate it. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I've got a question from somebody. Hey, Jim, you're on the line with Jen. Did you want to talk to Jen, Jim?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to say they've got a lawsuit in California, $1 trillion plus, Meta, accusing them of brain damage and addiction to children. And then when you piggyback this on AI, which for my money, we're an environmental disaster all over the planet. What is what's the end game here with AI? I mean, are they going to piggyback? Is this going to be like the same kind of thing in addiction and brain damage? Is that what we're looking at here, an environmental disaster? Because these plants are environmental disasters, as far as I can tell. They're burning fossil fuels. Musk is burning fossil fuels in his 2 plants in Missouri.
Yeah,
I don't know where they're at, but
hold on a second. Go ahead, Jen.
I would say that as far as AI goes, it's still evolving and it's still in its youth. It is something to be concerned about, definitely. I don't think it's particularly a brain damage situation. I think there will always be people that are addicted to certain things, and AI will be there will also be people that are addicted to AI. There are today. So parameters and policies and things still need to be put in place. It's in its infancy, and I think that at this time is the time to put that governance around it. So it's still to be determined, unfortunately.
I hear some degrees in psychology with AI focus would be probably a good path for those who are looking for a new career. Thank you so much again. Appreciate it, Jen Schroeder. Great to talk to you, and look forward to seeing you again. Take care of yourself. And folks, you can also follow Jen on social media. Find her on Instagram. That's where I found you. TikTok, all the places. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 in Seattle, KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, and of course, digitally. Thank you for being here. More after this.
Hey, this is George Lopez, and I want to take a moment to talk about cancer because it is no joke. Hey, every 16 seconds, an American receives a cancer diagnosis, and every minute of every day, another person loses their life to cancer because far too often, cancer goes undetected until it's too late. That's why Stand Up to Cancer has set a bold goal to make early stage detection an essential part of standard of care for all cancers. So often, if cancer is detected early, the chance of long-term survival is 90%. So if we all support cancer research, more than 2 million lives could be saved in the next decade. It will take all of us standing up together to put this goal within reach. Our success is measured in the months, years, and lifetimes given back to the people with cancer and their families. So join the mission and help save lives today at standuptocancer.org.
It's 4 words no parent should ever hear. Your child is sick. It's 4 words that change everything. Those 4 words can define a family. It's 4 words that are filled with pain, heartache, and grief. And with those 4 words, the innocence and joy of childhood disappears. But Starlight has taught us 4 other words that make all the difference. The power of play. Healing begins with happiness. That's why Starlight Children's Foundation delivers happiness through gaming, toy deliveries, and more to 3 million kids at more than 700 hospitals across the country to deliver happiness when it matters most. Learn more at starlight.org.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. We continue our drive home here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 in Seattle, KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, and our friends tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, and now Minocqua Brewing Company Substack, where we encourage you to subscribe to any of the platforms that you're on. I mean, like all of them. Just depends. You can see which ones you like the most. And share them with your family and friends. Let them know where the conversation is happening. And there was something a caller said on Joan's show that, or Joan was talking about how when we talk about wars, right now what we focus on are the oil prices and the cost of things, and I agree with that. I agree that that's what seems to grab the headlines, not the loss of life, the danger that we are putting our men and women in uniform, the loss of life for the people who are being bombed and attacked. I'll never forget that first day. After drowsy Donnie took a break from one of the events at his golf course, his country club, Mar-a-Lago, and went out there with his baseball hat and said that we're gonna attack Iran. It's gonna be over soon, but basically told us that people are gonna die, people are gonna get hurt, but that's the cost of war. But really, what he meant was the cost of him doing business. And then within hours, a girls' school was bombed. And children died. And right away, the lies started spreading. And I want to preface this by saying that this has been proven to have been, whether it was us, we did it, whether it was outdated maps or bad AI or just not taking the due diligence and make sure they were doing anything that I don't. But it started out with this just cacophony of it was Iran did it to themselves. It was it was a faulty one of their own faulty bombs, and they said that it was one that we had stolen, that they had stolen from us to use. That when it turned out that it was one of our bombs, they're like, oh well, then Iran must have stolen it. It's the ground is always shifting. The goalposts move, the stories change, the lies grow. And I still, the people who are like, well, we because they told us last year, if you remember, they told us that Iran was nowhere near. They had no ability to have a nuclear weapon. And then now it is, well, we have to, they can never have one. They were close to having a nuclear weapon, and we have to make sure that they don't. But I thought you already told us that they hadn't. And I'll never understand. And now Trump says there's no talks with Iran taking place as a standoff over the Strait of Hormuz. And then he says he wants to claim it as the United States. And then now we've got people in Greenland, and he wants to trade. Did someone say he wants to trade Puerto Rico for Greenland? I mean, I don't know. Anyway, Trump says that there's no ongoing dialogue with Iran to end the war. No discussions scheduled. His son-in-law and Jared Kushner is talking to Fox, of course. He says that Iran is not showing an interest in striking a deal. And some of the negotiations that we've heard of make it seem as though it's a deal that's worse than what President Obama had negotiated, which Trump tore up. By the way, a commercial vessel was struck by an unknown projectile while in the strait today. Okay. At any rate. By the way, did I hear as well that now it seems that the intel about a possible attack on Dementia Donnie when he was in Turkey may have come from Israel? Like, what is happening? And I'm not crazy about conspiracies, but also I wonder if they did think, if the story got out that he had to get into a catering cart, that would rally the base and say, see, look, our fearless leader has to hide in a catering cart because his life is in danger. It is all, as I think I've said this quite a bit, it's all bonkers is all I can say. I want to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Estrelitta Harmon, who is the executive director of Center for Better Aging. And I think now that I've hit double nickels, Lady B, I'm starting to figure out what it's so weird. I lied about my age for so long that leaning into it also feels weird. Like I hear, a Stephanie Miller every day making jokes about how old does she say she is? In her 30s or 40s or... I don't know. I never wanted to be Jack Benny. I did, fudge a little bit. I let people guess how old I was. The problem with letting people guess how old you are is that when they get closer, you stop wanting them to guess. I remember that happened to my mom. She always looked 15 years younger than she was. And then they started getting closer. She goes, stop telling people to guess my age. Let's take a break here and we'll talk about the work that we can do and how we can be involved and aware and find out about the programs from the Center for Better Aging. More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150 in Seattle, KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, and of course everyone tuning in digitally. And you can find all of our shows as a podcast on heartlandsignal.com. More in a moment.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. We'll see scattered showers and thunderstorms tonight with a low temperature of 68 degrees and southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Wednesday, we'll see a slight chance of thunderstorms, but most of the area stays dry. High temperature of 76. Sunny Thursday, high temperature of 78. Friday, scattered showers and thunderstorms with a high temperature around 80 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 75.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
At Blaine's Farm and Fleet, we know you do things your way. So why shop the same retail giants as everyone else when we have the products you need and trust at unbeatable prices? Right now, select Shepherd wheels, casters, and floor protection 15% off. 3M WorkTunes Bluetooth hearing protection $74.99. And save 10% on Thoroughbred welding cylinders and gas. Plus, Chick Days start Friday, August 28th with a variety of egg layers and meat birds. Find value for the work you do every day at Blaine's Farm and Fleet.
This is Richard Chew with something to chew on. Dr. Abdul El Sayed just won the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate in Michigan. The voters prevailed over $60+ million of outside money. So where do we go from here? If we, as progressive liberal Democrats, really want to save our democracy and take back Congress, then we all need to lean into this election in Michigan. So let's do some donor math. If 50% of the people who voted for Kamala Harris in the 2024 election each donate $5 to Dr. Sayed's campaign, That would provide his team with roughly $200 million to wage a grassroots fight against Republican Mike Rogers. When you combine that with the fact that Dr. Syed's ideas are better for all citizens in Michigan, it's a real winning combination. So let's get to it, progressives, and win this country-altering U.S. Senate seat.
Richard Chu, weekday mornings at 6 on WCPT 820.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Here's great news for those Chicagoans heading up to southern Wisconsin. Should you ever forget to load up on progressive brews from the local favorites like Rogers Park Provisions or Park West Liquor in Lincoln Park, Minocqua Brewing Company beer is now conveniently available at Dream Liquor and Cigar in Kenosha and in the Lake Geneva area at Delavan Liquor and Smoke in Delavan. If the great town of Madison, Wisconsin is your jam, please remember to swing into the Minocqua Brewing Company tap room at 2927 East Washington Avenue to grab some Resistance beer, pizza, t-shirts, and progressive camaraderie.
No detours, no distractions, just bold ideas and real talk. This is Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
You know, I received an email a few weeks ago asking me if I would have the next guest on that I'm about to introduce you to. And I was like, yes, please. Yes, yes, yes. I'm very passionate about the work that they do. We want to talk about the Center for Better Aging, which opened its clinic in July 2024 inside St. Bernard's Hospital's Ambulatory Care Center in Englewood. They cover 22 zip codes on the greater South Side, one front door for older adults and caregivers trying to get through a system that was designed by nobody for nobody, essentially. I don't know if that's the way my guest would want to put that, but in under 2 years, 18,500 older adults and caregivers reached, about 2,000 patients visits, 600 members enrolled. This is remarkable work. Let's get to all of it. Estrelitta Harmon is the executive director for Center for Better Aging. Yes. We're all going to do it, God willing, right? We all get to get older, don't we?
Yes.
So
that's the goal.
Right?
Yes.
So tell me about yourself. Where'd you grow up, my friend?
Well, I actually grew up in the north suburbs. So I grew up in Glenview. My family, both my mother and my father, born and primarily raised in Chicago. And I have a deep passion for this city. I raised my family on the south side of Chicago, went to school at University of Illinois at Chicago for undergraduate and graduate school. So I am Chicago ride or die.
Yeah, same.
And I think that's actually really deeply core to my passion for this work because it is about serving the city of Chicago's aging population.
I really think that there is, like, a lot of folks don't realize how many resources are available to them. And also there hadn't been as much communication about what resources people could reach out for, right?
Yes.
I think that there's a lot involved in this. So I first, let me ask you, why this path? Was this something that you studied in college? Was this something that kind of branched off from something else, other work that you were doing?
Not really, which is interesting. You know, I think that we all have our personal connections to aging, whether that's us aging ourselves or our families, our experiences with different ailments as people are aging. And I will say personally, I saw both ends of the spectrum. So my grandfather, my father's father, passed away at 64 due to a heart attack. And he was actually taken to the very hospital where my clinic is located right now. He was taken to St. Bernard Hospital. He passed away. He was actually the alderman of that ward at that time. He was 64. His then wife, my grandmother, just recently passed last year at 94.
What?
She had dementia and had my father primarily serving as her caregiver for the later years of her life. And so I saw longevity, but also the taxing lifestyle changes and really the commitment that my father had to take on as a caregiver. And so there was kind of seeing that dynamic of life cut short, but then also longevity and vibrancy. And she was really engaged and leaned on a lot of the services that we even support right now, like a senior building. She lived in a senior building. She attended senior satellite programming. She was at the dancing events. And so I saw kind of that spectrum. And then my mother-in-law on the other end, which really resonates with me now doing this work in Chicago, where we have a huge life expectancy gap. She just turned 70 last year, and her family couldn't understand why she was so afraid of that birthday. She didn't want to party. She was really afraid. And it was because she's never experienced anyone older than 70 in her family. She is now the longest living member of her family. And the reality for the communities that I serve is that that isn't abnormal. And so while we're seeing longevity in Chicago, we now have the longest life expectancy on record in Chicago at almost 80 years. I think it's 79.5. We aren't seeing that in the Black and brown communities, and the Black age gap, racial gap is still significant, still 10 years shorter than that. And so I take that deeply when I'm working with people, and even people ask us all the time, why do you say 50 and older? People are sometimes offended when I say 50 and I'm talking about aging and geriatrics, because we cannot wait until 65. And so that's how I really was attracted to kind of how this impacts people personally. And then professionally, this opportunity came to me. I was doing work in Indiana in the aging space, supporting their multi-sector plan on aging as a consultant. And this opportunity truly found me. I read the proposal for the initiative and I signed up immediately because I threw my hat in the ring saying if I could do even a portion of what this committee or this board had put together as the proposal, that I would change the entire trajectory of the South Side. And so I'm excited that I was given that opportunity, and it's an honor to serve in this role.
Amazing. What an amazing story. I was getting goosebumps, and I didn't want to, but really remarkable of taking personal experiences, and work that you wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And when you mentioned the age gap of life expectancy, talk to us a little bit about that, because I feel like some people close their hearts when they hear things that are based on race. When you have data, it's not a feeling. We don't feel like this is a gap. It is a gap. Talk to us a little about that.
Yeah, it's not something that is an emotion or a feeling. It is data-backed, factual information. And the reality is, in Illinois, there's already huge data, right? The aging population is transforming our demographics. 1 in 4 by 2030, which used to sound far away, but that's not that far away anymore. 1 in 4 people will be over the age of 65 in Illinois. Now, the numbers aren't that drastic in Chicago, but it's still like 14% of our population. It's a huge percentage of our population. And the reality is, yes, we reached almost 80%, almost 80 years life expectancy in the most recent census. But we know that when we look at the data from the same census that showed, 79.5 life expectancy for Chicago on average, if we looked at the neighborhoods, if we looked at the zip codes, we're seeing still 67, we're seeing 68, we're seeing really significantly different numbers on the South Side and the West Side. And the difference in those communities is just access to care, it is transportation, it is the availability of nutritious food, it is access to primary care and specialty care. It is not their desire or lack of desire to live longer. I think everyone across this band, in Chicago wants to live longer. It is because of the environment in which they were either born or live. That is really a differentiator. And so there is huge amounts of data on this, and I'm really passionate about us leading the effort to close that life expectancy gap.
I am too, and that's why when I saw the proposal, when someone reached out, I was like, yes, yeah. Like, how do I? Yes, please. So talk to us a little bit about when you mention all the elements that are there's your model is 4 words, is that right? Predictive, preventative, personalized, and participatory. Is that right?
Yes, that's 4 Ps.
Yeah. So let's start with what's the hardest one to fund, would you say?
Yeah, so I won't take credit for the 4 Ps. So this has existed far beyond or before Center for Better Aging, but that is how we integrate kind of our approach to whole person care. And I think the hardest part of that is preventative, because a huge component of preventative is educational. It is getting the information out. It is ensuring that people are aware that healthcare is not meant to be reactive, that it is meant to be kind of ongoing maintenance, right? Like we take care of our car, or we hope to take care of our cars, right? That you'd be going in for the checkup, not because something's wrong, but because you're supposed to check in when nothing's wrong, right? To stay well. And so that's, especially in the communities we serve, a huge milestone for us to be able to say that we've reached, in 1 year, 20,000 people. Most of that reach was education. It was health education, wellness information. It was informing them about vaccinations, diabetes, well, you name it, we're teaching it. And that's really the biggest barrier, is if we can get people to realize that they can go to a primary care physician, that they don't have to utilize the ED or for their primary care, or they don't have to wait until something happens, then we can keep them whole. We can keep them happy. We can keep them healthy and out of the emergency department and living a little bit longer.
I scroll a lot on social media, and I think now that my algorithm is like, you're over 55 now. Here's what you should be doing. But to your point about, medicine should be, a part of your life, going visits and checkups rather than reacting to not feeling good. How do we prevent getting to that point? There are indicators along the way, whether it's high blood pressure, cholesterol, all those kinds of elements, right?
Yes. Absolutely. And I'm going to throw one into that pot, social connection.
Yes. I should have mentioned that. Yes. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So many times we think about health care and our health outcomes, and we think, health only. We may expand that conversation, and we should, because most of the predictors of our health outcomes are social. It's transportation, food, all those things. But more importantly, I think, to this conversation, especially in the communities we serve, on the South Side, 1 in 3 older adults lives alone. Mm-hmm. Social connection is huge. I think people have heard it before. They say loneliness is as bad for your health as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. That's real. We say higher rates of hypertension, higher rates of diabetes. And that's not saying that, the other things like food and diet aren't important. It's saying that if you are lonely and isolated, you're at that much higher risk of also being ill, that much higher risk of falling and actually having a severe injury. And so a lot of the work that we do also is not even just about education, but social connection, because that is an intervention. It actually is a health intervention to connect people, to keep them a part of the community and engaged and caring about the things that are happening around them. And it adds also to our community, because aging adults have something that can contribute. They have wisdom. Yeah. We want them engaged in the community too. And so it's been really great addition to our healthcare model. It's not just about, healthcare intervention as it's traditionally thought. It's about all the other ways: social connection, transportation, food access, all the other ways that we can keep people healthy.
I agree completely. I can see the difference. Like, I think that because I get so busy, my mother, we live with my mom. She's 91 years old, and I can see the difference. I was very busy. I was kind of consumed by work, and then I wasn't really. There would be a day or two when I maybe didn't see her, but my husband and my kids, I just figure we're all in the same house. But now I make a point of making sure I go down there. I had one of her doctors told me I should put a camera in her house in case she falls, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready to watch Abuelita. For this, I don't think she wants that either. I mean, there's some dignity too, right?
Yes, and that's unfortunately the reality of caregivers and family members daily, right? Making those decisions of, when do I need to make that change? Right. When do I take the car keys? When do I have to add a camera to a private space?
Yeah.
And the reality is you have to kind of trust your gut and your family dynamics to make those decisions. But yes, absolutely critical to aging well and aging gracefully and better aging, right? It's literally my brand and our organization's brand is dignity, is their ability to be independent and have dignity and age gracefully. And age in place, right? In a home, yes, as opposed to being in an institution if that isn't their choice. Yeah.
And I think, as you mentioned, some of the elements that lend itself to how you can stay in your home to the best of your ability to be independent. I think we all want that.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't speak for everyone.
I would think.
But I would think, yes.
I mean, maybe some people want it. Let's take a break here. We are in studio with the executive director of Center for Better Aging. The website is centerforbetteraging.org. Again, centerforbetteraging.org. We're talking to Estrelitta Harmon. I love this name, by the way. Her name is beautiful. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation on WCPT 820, KKNW 1150, KTNF AM 950, and of course, all of our friends tuning in digitally on Facebook, YouTube, and Minocqua Brewing Company Substack. Find our podcast at heartlandsignal.com.
The Ben Joravsky Show.
Nancy Graham, this is an excerpt from his special grand jury interview. Listen, he thinks he's cheated out of the election. If you told him, meaning Trump, Martians came and stole votes, he'd be inclined to believe it. One more time. This is Lindsey Graham, under oath. If you told Trump Martians came and stole votes, he'd be inclined to believe it. Donald Trump's assertions that the election was stolen from him are about as well-founded as if he said Martians stole it from him. He made it up.
The Ben Joravsky Show. Saturdays at 5 p.m. on WCPT.
When you've got real work to do, Metal Supermarkets will help you get it done fast. With a huge variety of metals in stock, we can help no matter what job comes your way. And all it takes is a few clicks. We make buying metal online easy, so you can spend less time shopping and more time getting things done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Place an order online today at metalsupermarkets.com.
1 in 10 people age 50 and older in the U.S. have early age-related macular degeneration.
Because macular degeneration often has no early symptoms, many don't know they have it until irreversible vision loss has already occurred. Well, when I first found out that I had macular degeneration, it was really scary. I mean, my eyes are my living.
What's most important for me to see my family, my loved ones, my pickleball game, everything I do is dependent upon my vision.
Being able to see, be able to spend time with my children, be able to travel is extremely important. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have my vision. Don't miss life's most beautiful moments.
Schedule a comprehensive eye exam to protect your sight.
Macular Degeneration Research, a Bright Focus Foundation program, offers free resources and tips for healthy vision.
Go to stopamd.org to learn more.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Here's great news for those Chicagoans heading up to southern Wisconsin. Should you ever forget to load up on progressive brews from the local favorites like Rogers Park Provisions or Park West Liquor in Lincoln Park, Minocqua Brewing Company beer is now conveniently available at Dream Liquor and Cigar in Kenosha and in the Lake Geneva area at Delavan Liquor and Smoke in Delavan. If the great town of Madison, Wisconsin is your jam, please remember to swing into the Minocqua Brewing Company tap room at 2927 East Washington Avenue to grab some Resistance beer, pizza, t-shirts, and progressive camaraderie.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our conversation here on WCPT 820, KKNW 1150, KTNF AM 950, and of course, everyone tuning in digitally. I have to often stop myself from taking advantage of the fact that I have very talented, incredibly experienced people in different fields and not overwhelm them with my own stories. However, one of the reasons I was so excited to have Executive Director of Center for Better Aging, Estrelitta Harmon, join us is this is something that this isn't a career path for me, but I have thought, because of caring for my dad when he was ill and now being the primary caregiver I know for my mother and an adult son with severe disabilities, I was telling Estrelitta I'm a sloppy sandwich, because that's what we call people who are caring for a child and caring for a parent, is we're the sandwich generation, right?
Yes.
And tell us a little about caregivers not identifying. You mentioned off the air that people don't see themselves as caregivers.
Yes. So 2 years ago, we received funding through the CVS Health Foundation to stand up, amongst other things, caregiver support program and social programming to reduce social isolation, as I was mentioning, kind of how critical that is. We thought that we would have an overflow of people who were just saying, yes, thankfully, there were some resources to support me. I can't wait. Sign me up. Whatever you're offering, I want to do it. And the reality was, when we went to promote the program, there were so many people who either, one, just did not identify themselves as caregivers. They said, oh, that's my family member, it's my responsibility. Or two, identified maybe as a caregiver, but didn't want the help, even when they admitted that they needed the help. And so there's a bit of this disconnect. And we know, the numbers are staggering. Just in Illinois, it's like hundreds of, I think it's 325 billion? Don't quote me, but it's billions of dollars of unpaid caregiver work each year. And yet, because some people are choosing, but mostly I think because people are required to provide that care. And yet we don't really have a system set up to support fully the caregivers or the aging adult in a way that would be comparable to that level of contribution. And so, yeah, we've stood up programs. We've tried to really hear and survey and really engage our caregivers that are now participating in our program to understand, what do you need? What kind of language helps you better understand, the support that could help you thrive? And then also to kind of educate on that guilt that comes with actually, seeking out respite care or taking a vacation when you are a primary caregiver, that those things are necessary, because guess what also increases Alzheimer's? or risk of Alzheimer's? Stress, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a bit of, we've got a lot of caregivers aging themselves, sandwich generation, who are caring for aging adults who have Alzheimer's or dementia. And they then are kind of fulfilling that cycle, right? Taking on that stress independently or with their family. And so our goal is really to provide that opportunity to say, hey, caregivers, we hear you, we see you. Here's a program where we can support you and bring you into a community of others who relate, because it's also a very lonely journey to be a caregiver. And, it's okay. It's okay if you actually do need support.
It is. And I was mentioning that it's often hard to ask for help or say that you need help, because we all want to feel like, I got this. There's a lot of that attitude, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think our society also has made it feel as though if it is your family member, you must do it. And that if you don't and you seek hired help or an institution, that's some kind of failure.
Right.
And the reality is that it's a financial commitment, is a time, energy, family commitment in many instances. And so I really just encourage people to do what's best for them and their family and also their well-being.
What kind of resource? Because the caregiving space, one, whether it's from a family member, but also people who have it are making a living at caregiving, it's one of the most undervalued elements of our society, services of our society. And I think it's a global crisis, isn't it, for caregivers?
It is, and a huge workforce shortage.
Yeah.
And so one of our partners, we do this work through a collaborative model. And so we've got 40 plus community partners. One of our core collaborative partners is Chicago Commons, for example, and they provide home care services. And the reality is that there's always going to be a wait list. There's always going to be a demand. And they really can't even train and fill that quickly enough. And so we do work with a lot of organizations to provide referrals to other home care entities and kind of support families in navigating that decision. It's a very critical decision if you choose to bring someone into your home or your loved one's home. And so we support that in the best way we can.
And tell us a little about, for families listening, so this is the Illinois HFS agency, Manage My Case at abeillinois.gov, right? Is this where notices live?
Yes, Abe. Yes, yes.
And so what should caregivers do? Is there a deadline coming up on January 1st for caregivers to do something? I just got some information from a listener. Is there something that they should be registering or what they should know about being on this website?
So what's happening in January 1st is all of the HR1 changes. The big bill.
So we're getting to the big, beautiful bill. I must have buried that lead. Because that changed Medicaid. Illinois is implementing work requirements. Right?
Yes, and so there's a lot of notifications coming out from the state, and so you can certainly lean on the resources and the notifications coming from the state. A lot of that also, and I don't know this is specifically what the listener was speaking to, but if you are a caregiver and you are on Medicaid or you receive Medicaid benefits, a caregiver can actually receive an exemption. So if you are unable to meet that threshold for work or volunteer hours and you demonstrate that you're a caregiver, I don't know what the documentation requirements will be, but that does qualify as an exemption. So it's really important that caregivers who are doing double duty, maybe you're working part-time because you're a caregiver, that you won't have that burden of meeting that work requirement because you can qualify for that exemption. So I don't know if that was what they were speaking to, but the notifications, incredibly important to stay up to date on what's coming from the state so that you're aware of everything coming out in January.
Wow. Okay. So again, folks, it's the Center for Better Aging.org is the website. Again, Center for Better Aging.org. When we talk about, one of the things I was mentioning off the air is I now that I've hit the double nickels, but I've been thinking about it for over a decade, even before that, when my dad died 25 years ago. But even with him at 68, he was very stubborn about accepting help. Right. And so I imagine with the generation of older folks, they're like, I don't need your help. I'm fine. I don't need it. What are some of the sort of ways in which we can first mindfully ourselves be aware that we're getting older? What do you recommend people do with checking in with themselves?
Yeah, I think one thing is to be real about changes happening to your body and your mind. It's very easy to say, I woke up, there's an ache and pain. And go about your day. I do that. I actually did that today. I was in meetings. I was like, my back is hurting me. And I just took a pain medication and kept on with my day. But the reality is the more that you're feeling those aches and pains, you really do need to be reaching out to your primary care physician and establishing care if you don't have one that you're regularly seeing to let them know. And sometimes we forget about things by the time we reach the doctor. Keep a notepad. Write down, hey, I've been tripping. I tripped 3 times this week. I'm clumsy, but that's abnormally high. Or, I've been having back pain, or I'm getting headaches frequently, because some of those things are signs of either something developing or that exists. And sometimes it's medications that we're on, right? Or you start a new medication and suddenly you are tripping or you're falling because it's causing a little bit of delirium, right? And so that writing that down helps your provider then better care for you. It also can help your family member, if you bring somebody with you to your appointment, to better have an understanding of what's happening with you when they're not around. And I will say the other thing is, a lot of the times, especially because of our societal norms, we talk about some things like forgetfulness as aging norms, right? Oh, they felt, that's a part of aging, right? Or they are forgetful, that's a part of aging. Some of them are actually severe signs of something being wrong. So we need to take them a little bit more seriously and, again, take note of them and report them and share them with either a family member that you trust or your primary care physician.
Well, I appreciate all of that. And you have an event coming up that people should know about as well?
Yes. So this work is only made possible by the funding that keep the doors open and the lights on. And we are actually doing our inaugural golf outing called Fairways for Better Aging at Harborside International Golf Center on August 26th. So that's actually next Wednesday. But we are still promoting the event because we want to welcome anyone who's available and would love to join us on the course. We have a regular golf experience, so foursomes, who can get out there and play. But we also understand that not everyone is a golfer. And so we offered a social pass that includes a golf clinic and fun things like small bites and mimosas and a much more social experience. And then closing it out with a fun kind of 19th hole after event to round out the evening and really just learn more about the work and how you can contribute. And again, we're just excited to launch our fundraising event in this way because the dollars are needed to support an aging generation, and Chicago is in need of these resources, and the Center for Better Aging is here to offer them.
Well, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation and for sharing so much information that's important to our listeners, whether they are, we're all getting older, so it's important to everybody. So
yes.
It's for everybody. Again, Estrelitta Harmon, centerforbetteraaging.org. And is that where people can find out about the golf outing as well?
Yes, absolutely. It's on our landing page.
Perfect. Centerforbetteraaging.org. And look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so much.
Whenever you want. You just let me know, and we'll
Thank you,
think of
Patty.
reasons to have you back. I'm just saying. Bye, everybody. Love you all. Have a great night.
WCPT replay.
Your SCOTUS ruling Trump is free to deport thousands of Haitians from deep red Clark County, Ohio. It